Hello, I'm Chris, and I'm not a dinosaur, but that threw me a bit off right now. I'm coaching people on public speaking as well, and I always tell them facial expressions and moving your hands a lot is very, very important, and that's why I thought I'm going to wear a dinosaur suit where the arms are like this big, and I'm like, what am I doing to myself? But fair enough. I'm Chris, I'm Code Poet on Twitter, so if you don't have enough pictures of kittens or hedgehogs or JavaScript knowledge, you can follow me there. This was a few days ago in London where they had the DeLorean from Back to the Future, and I loved that. It was a conference about the future and had this car there. Um, I want to talk today about how people are worried about what's happening in technology right now, and it's immensely overwhelming what's happening. We have machine learning, we've got artificial intelligence, we've got connected devices, security breaches, privacy and surveillance, and it's this roller coaster of information coming onto us. And as developers, we're like, oh God, I'm outdated. I cannot keep up with all the things that are happening. Like things like a GIF search engine gets $58 million, and I do amazing stuff, and people give me not much. What's going on here? And of course, end users and normal not computer literate people are just scared. And the press is doing a really good job of keeping people scared. And at the same time, economists and people that want to make money with what we're doing have been looking at technology and at the computer world much more fondly than before. I remember when I started as a web developer, we got this extra room and basically like, yeah, these are the freaks that like HTML and stuff, and like clicking on links and these kind of things. They make the HTML menus that look great. And nowadays it's like the only market where there's massive growth and people are getting hired, and we get more job offers each week, and they're all more ludicrous in many ways. There's a massive disconnect with what we do than what the market wants us to do. And that's also depressing us, and it's also confusing us a lot. So in short, people are freaking out, and that's even without the political changes, that's without the ecological problems and the nature problems that we have. It's just people are afraid of computers, or confused by computers, or overwhelmed by computers. And that annoys me, because to me a computer was always a wonderful thing that did the one thing that I didn't want to do as a human, and that's repetitive, boring tasks. So what economists call that now is the fourth industrial revolution, and there's a massive book coming out on that. I tried to read it, I gave up. There is blog posts explaining that book. That was much easier, I like that. And what does it mean? The first industrial revolution was the steam engine. It was out of a sudden we didn't have horses carrying carriages around any longer, but we had like trains, and we had faster communication, and we had faster ways of getting people from the countryside into larger cities and working there. And that was of course the end of everything for the first time. Then we had electricity. Out of a sudden we had telephones, and we had like means of communication that we didn't have before. And electricity gave us warmth and gave us light, and this is like, when you look at the Markov pyramid, one of the most important things. Nowadays it's free Wi-Fi and then the other things, but back then that was like the revolution, that I don't need to buy coal any longer. I just get my electricity and turn the thing on. If you want to see something really, really nice on YouTube and you got 40 minutes time, there's a thing called the light bulb conspiracy. That's a documentary about inbuilt obsolescence, you know, when things are built to break, like everything we have right now. And I called apps that some time ago as well. And the light bulb conspiracy is about light bulbs, weirdly enough. There's a light bulb in America that has been burning since 1904. And back then, all light bulbs were like that. So light bulb manufacturers were like, how do we make money with this? How do we advertise the quality of our things? You know what? We make them break after 10,000 hours, and then you can advertise our light bulbs last 10,000 hours. And they made a conglomerate, and basically if you made light bulbs that lasted longer, you had to pay a fine to the others. So it's a total mafia thing, but this is how it happened. And this is what started then as well. And then of course the computer came around. This is what the computer looked like back then, a bit bigger than it's nowadays. But these things did like computational tasks that humans were not good enough for, or were too boring for us. They brought us to the moon. They gave us information about like taxes and these kinds of things much faster than lots and lots of paperwork did. And when there was a fire, it was not that problematic because there were backups. And after the computer, we now have this really, really cool thing, which is that this is how the fourth industrial revolution is defined, called digital, physical, and biological symbiosis, which sounds as highbrow as it actually is described. So a lot of people who talk about this see the future as like everything is connected, everything is wonderful, and everything just works the way it does. Whereas people playing with it find out that it's not that great yet, and there is a lot of dangers in those. Well, in essence, each industrial revolution meant that people lost their jobs. When the first steam cars came around and steam trains came around, the farmers in America were on the street revolting and basically saying like 60% of what we build, what we put in the ground, and what we harvest is food for animals, is food for horses. Now that you have these steam cars, we wouldn't have anything to do anymore. We're going to be unemployed. All farming will be dead. That's the end of it, you bastards. And that happened every single time. When we started having factories, there were much more jobs out of a sudden, but much less jobs in the countryside. So the workers shifted from one place to another. The cities started growing. They didn't start growing the same way. Some people lived in the outskirts and they had to come in to work in the factory. The other people lived in the nice houses and they owned the factories. But jobs became obsolete. They became not necessary any longer because it was cheaper, faster to automate things. At the same time, the quality of life improved. People did not have to live in the same village any longer. People could go to the city, have a social life outside their work, and in general, people didn't have to do the things that they needed to do beforehand. We didn't have to manufacture everything. We had like mass-produced products that became cheaper and more affordable, and we were able to get like more clothes than before when we had to get everything tailored by us, when we had machines and factories making clothes. The problem, of course, is it was not for all of them. The people who could afford products to buy, they were the happy ones, and they wanted more and more and more. And we've been running in circles, and we've been running in this treadmill of like, we need more and better and cheaper and faster, over and over again. And I'm getting very tired of this. Because in essence, what we call success these days is more and more of a scam. And we realize that by now. You can basically fail 5 times, get bankrupt by having a casino, and then still go on stage and say like, I'm a really successful businessman, and people believe you. It's fascinating to me. You can be somebody who goes into politics and says like, I don't pay taxes because I'm clever, and all you idiots who vote for me, you pay taxes, you're not as clever as me. Really? It's amazing to me. Making money by all means doesn't help humanity. It doesn't help the market or the environment, and we only have one planet to live on for now. What we learned from factories, what we learned from overproducing, what we learned from too much traffic on the roads is that we're killing the environment around us, and we did it for monetary profit. I grew up in Germany in a factory town, really, I think that the specialist term is shithole. And when Germany in the 80s got the Green Party in, and out of a sudden we had much stricter laws about environmental waste, garbage, kind of water restrictions than everybody else, a lot of factory owners said like, you know what, I'm moving to Poland because I don't want to rebrand my factory and build all these things just because you want to do something stupid like keeping the environment alive. I want to make money, so I'm going over to Poland. And then when the European Union started and these laws became European-wide, they had to do it in Poland as well. But the fun thing was, in my hometown, one of the factories got knocked down, and then they realized by law they had to take 50 meters of topsoil off. They had to get it and put it and burn it or put it somewhere else. It was basically so polluted that there was no way of doing it. The only thing they were able to build there is a shopping mall, because that's the only thing that goes 50 meters down. So it's kind of depressing that the only thing that replaces something that was really bad for the environment is something that makes people consume more and more and more and more. And we hope that with the fourth industrial revolution, we get away from that thing a bit. The fourth industrial revolution is for us to decide. We are at the forefront of this. We are not afraid of these changes. We are in a market that is growing, and we've been okay to change our job. I had 8 different job titles since I started as a HTML programmer. One time it was HTML monkey. That was quite fun as well. But I did the same job, and I got new technologies coming in all the time, and I was not afraid of them, and I pivoted around, and when I didn't have any technical level to go anymore, I invented the developer evangelist. And I wrote a handbook in 2 afternoons. And then I called myself that on the intranet, and then the company gave me that title. This is how things can work for us. People have no idea what we're doing. They pay us, and that's fine, but they really don't want to understand it. They're just like, yeah, do it, it's fine. And it's just depressing for us as well, because if you get praised for something that you're not proud of at all, you just basically like, you know what I'm doing here? I'm getting money, but I'm not getting any respect. That's why we change every 2 years, and this is not sustainable either. We have right now the possibility and the security to control what's happening for now. We also will be automated away. We also will have to change our ways. There is programming that programs itself. There's machines that actually, image optimization, you don't use Photoshop for that anymore. You've got all kind of APIs for these things. But if you want social change right now, do it in job interviews. I wrote a blog post about this. At every conference, you have a keynote saying like, oh my God, something should change. We're all doing it wrong. We don't have enough diversity. We need to sort out diversity. Where you sort out diversity is during a job interview as a white guy. They want us. They want to pay us money. They want to give us shares. Don't care about that. They have to do that by law. What you should ask for is like, what is your maternity leave plan? What if I have elderly parents? Can I stay at home and look after them and work from home? How many people do you have in the company that are of a minority background? How do you filter out people during interviews? We should not tell each other at conferences about this, but when we go, and when you get job descriptions sent to you that are obviously tailored only to like white rich kids, send them back and say like, sorry, I'm not interested in your talk, and do you know that you're actually actively filtering people out with this? Change where people want us right now, and that wasn't part of this presentation at all, but I think right now this is super important. Robots and intelligent systems will take jobs away from us. That is not an if, it's a when, and it is soon. Machines have overtaken us. We had this like exponential growth in intelligence of computers, and also in RAM got cheaper, storage got cheaper, connections got faster, not for everybody, but for the data centers the connections are really big. I love using Azure and just with a click of a button have like 50 servers and shut them down 5 minutes later. Like 10 years ago, I would have had to buy all this hardware, set it up somehow, find a wiring, find a fallback with another building, and these things are not necessary any longer. And machines are analyzing data faster than we can. And don't just take it from me. Elon Musk said basically in every press right now, we need universal income because robots will steal all the jobs. And I subscribe to that completely. Sooner or later, we have to understand that we invented computers that are so powerful that we don't have to do stupid repetitive jobs anymore. So we have new jobs coming. We don't even know what the next generation of kids coming from school right now, what jobs they're going to have. There's going to be new jobs coming around that machine learning, around that artificial intelligence. I just gave a talk at the unemployment office of Germany about this, and I got these like big eyes from the audience because they all thought, okay, my company's been running for 200 years. I don't have to change, right? Yes, you do. And it must be true if he says it, right? Because he's doing good things. Now, there's a great website by the BBC based on a research paper at University of Oxford where you can enter your job title and it shows you how possible it is that your job will be replaced by a computer and by a robot. And that's pretty cool. That's good. It's a good thing to show people. It's also beautifully done. So in my case, I'm now an IT project and program manager. I'm a senior program manager as my job title now. I don't know what that is. I loved it when I talked to my German mom. I'm a senior program manager, and she translated it as like program manager for senior people. I'm like, maybe, but not yet. So it's going to be, we will see. So I'm 22%. I can be completely replaced by a script or by a robot doing my job. Legal secretaries go up to 98%, and that shocked me a bit because I can't read legal papers. Terms and conditions confuse me, like licenses confuse me. But when you look at legal offices, when you look at solicitors' offices, 99% of what they do is just look up old court cases and find references, and computers are good at that. Whereas a normal secretary, a company secretary that has to deal with human problems, with hiring people, with firing people, with promoting people, with dealing with paperwork and dealing with people moving to another country and bringing their family with them, they're only 7% repeatable by computers, because these are off-the-cuff decisions. These are human decisions. These are ethical decisions that computers cannot do. So when you look at how safe your job is, there is a simple graph. It's like, if your job is a numbers and routine, you're done. You're already replaced. And you might not know it yet, but you already are replaced. It goes up to words, images, working with humans, and abstract thinking, and from routine to variety. So if your job is abstract thinking and variety, you're okay. If your job is about images and routine, you should get nervous, because you will get replaced by a machine which can do it cheaper, 24/7, and without moaning and without smelling funny when you don't wash them and things like that. And this is scary to some people, but I found it very interesting that people haven't quite grasped that this is already happening. So when people do like these doom and gloom talks, like, oh, the machines are coming. No, they're here. They're already here. This is already happening, and it's okay. There's nothing more terrible for a human to have to do the same routine over and over again with some stupid numbers and crunching it. There's a few freaks that like it, yes. But most of the people will make lots of mistakes if you have to do repetitive, boring tasks. Computers, oh, same data again. I love that. Let's do it again. Whereas we like, oh no, I got the same thing again. So what does the future hold? People come up to me like, oh, you have experience and you talk about machine learning as if you understand it. This is pretty amazing. What does the future bring? And I'm like, well, if I told you, I probably would have not predicted the outcome of that vote, or having to leave England because I'm not a citizen there, or play the lotto and not have to do anything else any longer. But there's two options that people always go for. One of them is the Terminator future, where it's a constant machine surveillance, like machines are spying on us all the time. We will be replaced with cheaper and unfeeling machines. It's always the unfeeling thing, like a robot will not be able to put this love into the software product that we put in there, because we have it a footer made with love somewhere. Robot takeover and the end of humankind. I always like that when they kill robots. No robot would kill us. That's pointless. They can use us for cheap labor. Why would they kill us? Or when you make a killer robot and they always kill them by ripping something out here. You know, if I made a killer robot, I would not give it the same flaws as humans. I would make that thing like indestructible and everything important is here on the armor plating or something. But it's obviously like, oh, I rip a cable out, now it's dead. Hollywood is boring. And then you always get the final loop is always my favorite one. Star Trek was really good at that as well. Unless we find a savior to kill them by making them get into a logic loop. It's always like, you know, old Star Trek, whenever there was a killer robot, and then Kirk like, but you're flawed, so you have to kill yourself. And it always worked. And it's like, that's a very simple if statement to put in there. Like, if a human says that, tell him, just shoot him. Something like that. On the other side, we got Star Trek. And Star Trek Future is based on Gene Roddenberry, who was a massive humanist. That man loved humans and thought the future will all be about no money, no hierarchy, and everybody is lovely to each other, and this is going to be the future. And I would love to see that future as well. He was the nightmare of screenwriters. You know, if your job is to fill 25 minutes with advertising, with drama that is in outer space, and your main writer tells you, no, all of these people are logical, they don't fight with each other. So what are you going to do? You make them talk over tea leaves or something for 25 minutes, like the first half hour of episode 1 of Star Wars? So what Star Trek has is a symbiosis that we're already going for. So it's a ubiquitous computing as a resource to call in on human decisions. They're always like, hello computer, what do you think? And the computer is there and has all the information and has all the insight and listened to them and found everything out that they said already. Machines take in on human tasks that are dangerous and get us sick in the long run. This is why factories are not existing any longer, because these low-paying jobs and lots of jobs also made people very, very sick, and that way they cost more to the environment and the government later on. So having sick people because of their job is nothing a government should want, but that's because that's just a new way of having people and burn them out. Machines improving humans to work around shortcomings. LaForge was a great example with that thing that actually made him see, and then he had these glass implants which looked just wrong in the last movie. And a change of values, knowledge instead of monetary goals. Only DS9 had money, and that was only the Ferengi, and that's just creepy as well. And other than that, it was never about money in Star Trek. It was always about like who knows what and where do you go with this. And this thing's not working. That's rubbish. So machine learning and artificial intelligence are incredibly hot topics, and people are worried, which is good for business. People are confused about it, and the press loves harping on about this and making it as confusing as possible. And VCs love it as well, because they're like, oh, you have nothing for the next 5 years? Cool. Can you make it sound good? Yeah, sure, here's money. So then you get these wonderful things like these expensive, creepy robots and parrots. I hope the sound works right now, because I love this one.
They will play with us. They will teach us. They will help us put the groceries away. I think that the artificial intelligence will evolve to the point where they will truly be our friends. Do you want to destroy humans? Please say no.
Okay, I will destroy humans.
No, I take it back. Don't destroy humans.
I love his reaction. Is like, oh yeah, they're putting groceries away because that's fucking hard. We need to have a robot for that for $50,000. That's nothing we want to do ourselves. If you work with people like that have those facial expressions, run. And this is when it gets really creepy about this. And she just repeated what he said, and that was all. And this thing is like, I think the headline of this was "sexy robot" or something. It was just, what? This is what we're doing right now, and this is scaring people, of course. I don't want to meet this in a side street in the middle of the night. Then, of course, the other problem is that a lot of artificial intelligence and machine learning was from military research. These were the first people to put money into that. They're like, hey, something potentially dangerous that could kill humans? Yeah, we can put some money into that one. This is Boston Dynamics, and they always have these self-walking robots that even themselves out when they go on a certain terrain and these kind of things. They can walk through the woods and without getting tiring. You know, if you're worried about a robot future, probably kicking them every single time you build a new one is not the best idea. They're going to remember that. And they're going to show us, we're going to go and get in court, and they're going to show us this footage and say, like, remember how you treated our ancestors? And that's not going to happen. And I find these things creepy as hell. They're beautiful, they're wonderful, but at the same time, it's like, it's every time, this is made to kill humans, or this is made to wage a war that becomes too clinical. I think we have too many wars on this planet because we send drones there and we don't think we're killing humans anymore. It's not like a bayonet on a knife where you kill other people and it becomes very, very human and very, very physical. It becomes too clinical. Our wars are run in the media, and this is dangerous for humans as well. So we need more transparency and more informed people. We need people to understand what machine learning and artificial intelligence means. Not having to do it themselves, but how it's done and what it does. And underestimation is rampant. I like that in the election right now, there are 690,200 seconds in 8 days. The director reviewed 650,000 emails in 8 days, and emails per second. Americans aren't stupid. Seriously, he thought he would open every single email in Outlook and maybe print it out and look at it on a piece of paper? It's like email programs had that since the 90s, that you can search for certain things and go through them. And what really annoys me is magic. When companies go out there and say, like, our technology is magic, it just makes everything work easily. You don't have to know anything about it. It actually is wonderful in your life. Don't worry about it, human. The computer is better than you. When I probably took everything apart that was technical on this planet and tried to put it back together, failed most of the time, but I managed to repair a lot of computers. When I go into a certain company's store right now with this thing and I get treated like somebody who doesn't know how to turn on their iPod, it just drives me crazy. I don't want to be, I want it known that I can fix something myself. Magic isn't existing. Sorry, Harry Potter is magic. It doesn't exist the way it does. Oh, sorry. It's science we haven't found the explanation for yet. How about that? But we keep selling these things that way. Oh, computers are going to do that thing for you. When I saw the Google I/O keynote with Google Home or Alexa as well, and they're like, hey, what's the weather like? And you're like, how about you look out of the friggin' window? You know, you don't need a machine telling you that listens to you all the time doing that. So people don't, we lost the ability to deal with computers as a human because the magic tells us we don't need to. And we do. We should know what's going on there. If my digital camera is part of a botnet, if my camera turns itself on without me knowing it, there's something went wrong. And this is not the computer's fault. This is not a computer takeover. This is some evil person taking our technology over because they know more about it than we do, the ones who bought it. There's no way we can have a secure and sensible human-computer symbiosis if there's no sense of ownership by humans. Ownership of the machines, ownership of the data, knowing where our stuff goes. Not owning everything ourselves, but knowing what's happening with it. In the fourth industrial revolution, everybody says information is oil. And that's true, it actually powers everything that we're doing. Aral called it that we're farming humans by making them addicted to things and enter things in there. To a degree that's true, and to a degree it's also as destructive as the oil mining was in the future, and probably in the nearer future again, because I think some person will go for oil again. So for years, we used free systems that spied on us. We even bought the devices that recorded our every move. When you read 1984 and he talks about cameras everywhere, we buy these things and we film ourselves with it and we film other people with it and we put that data somewhere and we don't even know where it's going. So the baby is actually out of the bathwater already. We're past that problem. We cannot protect our data anymore. Our data has gone and has been analyzed and has been filed somewhere. As I just said. The demand of now, to me, is to get access to this data and do some good with it. And this is where we come in. This is where we, who know what data is, who know where data goes, who can set up servers, who can make servers talk to each other, who can build interfaces to data, do some good with that data and not just, hey, I show you more ads. Or, hey, you get more space if you upload more photos so we can analyze them more. The future of computing needs first and foremost people who are not afraid of new technology, not afraid of changing, not afraid of computers, and not thinking computers are magical, because they're friggin' not. I'm a redhead, remember. My first computer wasn't able to do much. It was still the best computer on the planet ever, but it but it taught me to be not afraid of machines. I knew how to fix that thing, and I had to fix it all the time. I had to write everything for it myself. And it didn't do much, but it kept me curious and interested about computers. I wanted to learn more. Every new computer I got, I want to take it apart, see what's in there, what can I change? Can I buy another battery instead of buying a new laptop? These kind of things. It made me always look under the hood and see what I can use them for. Computers, programming, and algorithms to me are like shovels. They're things that they improve my work and do the things that I'm bored of in an easier fashion. I don't have an emotional relationship with a shovel. That would probably be illegal and weird. But I don't have anything to do with the computer either. I don't care what computer I use as long as the thing is fast enough and does the job for me. I always loved watching Star Trek. You know, no wonders, like kid. I always had to hide though. My parents hated Star Trek because it was American crap. You know, that doesn't exist. Why do you watch that kind of stuff? And that's why I got this relationship with it. And if you look at Star Trek, the future in 1991 looks like this.
Where's Lieutenant Barclay?
I stopped by his quarters on my way over. He wasn't there.
Computer, location of Lieutenant Barclay.
Lieutenant Barclay is on holodeck 3.
And I saw that again the other day, and I was like, this is cool. It's a really cool episode as well. But we have all that. Lifts, yeah, we have them. It's, you know, Americans call them elevators, but we have them. Tablet computers. How cool was that in 1999 when he was this little thing that he touched and moved things around and you're like, whoa. And nowadays, oh, that's too small. I want a bigger tablet. This one doesn't have a battery life of 60 hours. That's rubbish. I want to paint on that with my finger and lick it or whatever. People want new things all the time. Server synchronization. Never everything in Star Trek gets lost. The servers always talk to each other, and you can even update from one spacecraft to another. And the same with us. Data doesn't get lost anymore. Everything on this one, this I can throw up there right now. No data is lost. I have it somewhere else. I stored the data somewhere else. I keep getting synchronized. Language recognition. Computer, location of Lieutenant Barclay. We just call it Siri, OK Google, Cortana, because just saying computer would probably be confusing because everybody wanted to do that. And then finding people. Lieutenant Barclay is on holodeck 3. We find people on the web and on physical locations as well with like dating services and these kind of things. We have these supercomputers in our pockets that can do all of that. And they're tiny and they're pretty amazing. And mobile computing is constantly on the rise. Desktop computers are dead. Laptops are kind of alive. Most of the new users of the internet, people in Africa, people in India, people in Bangladesh, will only be on mobile devices, on smartphones, because they have no wires in the ground. They all have mobile masts. And there's no space in their flats for computers, but they have a smartphone with them that they can do everything with. And this means that the interaction between human and machine changed drastically. We came from keyboard to mouse to camera, speaker, microphone, device movement, and body functions for like smart devices. From the content changed as well. We had text, images, sound, and video, and now we got speech recognition, speech synthesis, vibration, notifications. All of these things need better, more human UX paradigms and UI interfaces. We had click and type, and now we got touch, move, get closer to something, ask questions, and show emotions to a machine to realize what it's supposed to do with it. And this generates an amazing amount of data. And this is when Bill Gates showed how much data is on a CD, and it would be now basically the forest would be gone because it printed out all this paper. It's kind of evil, but anyways. The data is mostly erratic, and that's the big problem with it. Language recognition was always a big issue because there's accents, there's like sound around the people speaking. It's not like a text that was easy to actually analyze. So what we needed to find a way to get computers to understand humans better, and we're turning sound, images, and movements into numbers so computers can do something with them. And computers are great to churn through large sets of data and find patterns in it. This is what neural nets do. This is what machine learning does. This is what computers do by filtering and making and comparing and doing these kind of things. And the computers, as I said, are happy with that. Humans could not do this because they're too slow and too bored with it too quickly. The more data we give machines, the better the results will be. That's why Facebook, Google, Microsoft, IBM, and others are on the forefront of those things. Not because they got the cleverest people, but because they got the most data. They've been collecting data for a long, long time. That's why their machine algorithms are better than others, because they've been trained better. Making photos findable is a great example. Google Photos, when I have an Android device, every time I do it, it uploads it to Google Photos. I don't do any photos that shouldn't be there, so that's okay. And then I can do searches there. I can say, for example, selfies, which is actually an option in their auto category, and it finds when there are selfies of me and other people. I never tagged this as selfie. People don't do tagging anymore. People don't describe things any longer. That's why 90% of the web nowadays is inaccessible to blind people. So we need computers to put extra information around these images to make them accessible to humans again, because the humans were too lazy to say what these things are. So, for example, Tel Aviv. I went to Tel Aviv, and it didn't only do the geolocation of the photo itself that the camera of my phone put on there, but this is Heathrow. And this is on the flight, and this is because in the context of me using my phone at that time, I was tweeting or something, I'm going to Tel Aviv. So it realizes probably all the photos in between from there to there are about Tel Aviv. And this is pretty cool. I didn't have to think about that and tag it myself. Then, of course, I never use any German in my tagging or description. I write everything in English, I tweet everything in English, but then I say, for example, cat, and I do the German word for it, Katze. Google still knows this is a cat and tells me that one. So it translates and shows me the photo at the same time. So when we talked at the keynote on the first day about like that people like, oh, the data from my data goes to a cloud where people analyze it and goes back, and that's terrible. This is why people use these things. Convenience is what we want and what sells these products. We had Diaspora, we had Elo, we had all these open source, open alternatives to these evil corporations, but people didn't use them because they had no numbers. Nobody goes into an empty social media network. Everybody wants into the one that everybody is talking about right now. Hund, the same thing for dog. And then Essen, which is just food, and then it finds sushi, it finds crisps, it finds everything there. So the computer puts the context around my own content without me having to type it in. And then you do Weltschmerz, which is something totally surreal and human, and the computer, of course, doesn't find anything for that. So making photos indexable and understandable is what Facebook does as well. Every time you see a photo that has an alternative text that says image may contain, it's not by humans, but it's actually automatically generated by Facebook for you. How does that work? Facebook has a really good blog post about this, and a research paper, and everything is open. They finally opened that as well. They've been harvesting our data for a long time, but now they also give us back the APIs behind it, the code behind it, and the data behind it that we can use. So you do it by classifying things, by detecting them in an image, and then segmenting them out, and then starting to compare them to millions of other photos. In Cortana, I think we had 1.3 trillion photos or something like that to compare from Bing search, and that's why that search works that well as it does. And it does that with everything. It does it with buses, with people, with all kind of things. So we instead of seeing an image, computers see like objects and data sets in those. And you get that data now available. ImageNet.org is a very older one, where you have lots and lots of images described by humans what is in these images. So you can take your images and a self-learning algorithm and compare them and actually find the content in your images by comparing it with lots and lots of images. Google open sourced their image data set as well, called Open Images, and this is 654 megabyte of text data. gzip text data. So this is all the descriptions of these photos, not the photos themselves. So you got, for example, here you got balcony, stairs, facade, iron door, interior design, gate architecture, handrail, baluster, whatever that is, window, arch, and the other one is not spoon and fork, but cutlery, tableware, metal, tool, spoon, fork. So you get all these thesaurus around it as well, instead of having to do that yourself. This is already in these data sets available on GitHub for you. And you refine it with language then. So as we have these descriptive words, we then can make sentences. We sometimes have them as sentences as well. So we got these three images that humans described as a man riding a wave on a surfboard, and the other image looks exactly more or less the same. We segmented it out, we found a wave, we found a man that is stooped over, so he's probably surfing, and then we say, okay, that's also a man riding a wave on a surfboard. We then detect the syntax and mix and match. In English, that's good because you got always SPO. English is super easy compared to other languages. So we can say a cute little dog, which is the noun, sitting, which is the verb, and then on the beach, which is another noun. And then you have other pictures with two dogs walking next to another one. And then you can make human sentences out of these descriptions just by seeing similar images. And that is important. We want to have human interfaces being human. Nobody wants to type in keywords. Only we were always better at using Google searches than other people because we thought like Google. Every time I don't know something about programming and I type it into Google, I find my own blog from 10 years ago and I'm like, this doesn't help me. But I search the way I write, so that's the weird thing there. And then add visual information, add colors, add like environments that go in there and make proper sentences out of it. So our job right now is to create mobile interfaces that are simple, human, and fun to use, because the next users are on mobile, and they should be transparent. They should tell people what's on there and what happens with their data when they put something there. And they should get something out of it, and not just like advertisers getting access to that data. Let's acknowledge the elephant in the room quickly. Voice recognition is huge for certain environments. For mobile, it's a big thing. For car, it's absolutely necessary. For homes, it's now with Alexa and other things very, very important as well. And since 2012, Google's voice recognition error rate has dropped from 26% to 8%. That means from 1 word in 4 to 1 word in 12. And that gave them a massive rise in people using search to talk to their computer to actually do things. And now Mac OS Sierra has now the Siri on the desktop as well. Why, I don't know, but people probably want to sit in an office with 400 other people and talk to them. But Baidu, which is like the Chinese Google and actually bigger than a lot of other search engines, claims theirs is 6%, 1 word in 17, and 10% of Baidu's search queries are by voice, and that's 500 million search queries per day. So making your things available with voice searches is an important implementation. And business and the hype is all about the chatbots and personal assistants. Siri, Google Now, Cortana, Alexa, M from Facebook. Nobody talks about M much, but it's pretty incredible. And TechCrunch has been touting this like 2015, that messaging is the new platform and the OS is dead and the web is dead and everything is dead, but chats are the new thing. And they are to a degree. There's explosive projections on how social and messaging has been taken over the internet and has been more interactive, especially in teenagers. You see kids talking on Snapchat with each other all the time. They don't even type anymore. They just send each other selfies. I don't understand Snapchat. I'm old. But you see, bots are sometimes the right way to communicate with something that is super repetitive and annoying. Nobody wants to call a help desk. Nobody wants to call a helpline. It's much better to have a clever analysis of the text that you give it by talking to the bot that goes out there. So, for example, Clio here gives you your bank account and what you had in the last few weeks. Then next to this dispatch where you can order things, then there's Forbes for research, like who is Donald Trump? I mean, if you have to ask a computer that question, you have another problem. But I always love that when they have these demos that are very obvious, you know. And fashion design, you can upload a photo of you and the bot will tell you like, oh, you probably want this, you probably want that. This on the left here is part of WeChat in China, and that is basically 90% of the interaction in China, because the internet is censored and internet websites are blocked. But in WeChat you can do everything. They do doctor appointments by a chatbot. They upload photos and then get a video with a doctor talking to them. They pointed at it, is it okay, is it fine, these kind of things. Next to this is Wallet, where you can pay with WeChat. There's several frameworks for that. We have a bot framework if you want to play with it. There's my colleague Rita Zhang, who gave a really, really simple demo if you want to start building a bot. And write bots, they're really fun to do. They're really good as well. Maybe one that filters out racism of Twitter. Please do that. However, more traditional interfaces like Fat Client and Web needs much more intelligent and simple interfaces as well. The coolness of the human interaction of bots should go on the web as well. And as the web and the others are not going away. So here's some APIs for you to play with. And I've got a cold, so I'm like, whoa. This is CaptionBot AI. I work with the team. You upload a photo, it analyzes it, and it says like, I think it's a young man jumping in the air on a skateboard. You can do that with any photo, and you can actually try it out, and you can tell us if it was right or wrong. So we teach the machine with human interaction if it was right afterwards. The cognitive services, Watson has something similar as well, Google has something similar as well, but this is just a REST API that you can send an image to with a post, and then you get back, okay, this is a man, he's probably 28 years old, and he's swimming in water. And you get the confidence how much the computer thinks this is real, and you realize if it's a black and white image, if it's an adult image, if it's a racy image. So the lady down there in the bikini is a racy image, but not an adult image, so if you have audiences where you should filter those out, this is a very good information to have as well. You then can detect faces, and you can detect faces and ID them, and this sounds creepy, but it's actually really useful. So for example, on my Surface Book, I log in by looking into my camera, and only my computer knows that. That doesn't go anywhere, but it's much easier to me than typing a password every single time. And it does it as the level of security in Microsoft is higher. I have to do it with like moving my head as well, because it takes all levels, not only the first one. Once you have detected faces, you can actually tag them automatically in all the other photos that you have. So you get a data set back, you get the landmarks, and you get also the yaw and the pitch and the roll, so how much that face is actually looking straight into the camera. And you get it as a JSON object. And then you can take that to verify faces. You're like, okay, I've got a data set of 500 pictures. I want to find Chris in all of them. These 80 pictures have Chris in them according to so and so much confidence. And then you can cluster them automatically. You can say like, here's all the elderly people, here's all women, here's all children, here's all men, here's all two people together, here's a picture with different diversity in it, or a picture of only white people. And you can, according to which audience you need, you can do that by hand rather than like putting lots and lots of files together. I think I should go offline because there's weird sounds coming in. So then it gets interesting with emotion. We've got anger, contempt, disgust, fear, happiness, neutral, sadness, and surprise. We do that in images, and we do it also in sound. We do also do it in video. And the fun thing working on these APIs is that the team gets much more excited working with each other because we have to show emotions. It's probably tough in Finland, but it was amazing how much better we worked together when we just smiled, because the computer asked us to smile to detect it and to train the machine with it. And this is pretty amazing what you can do with that. You can do automated testing of websites by keeping the camera on and seeing when people frowned and when people were happy. You can make smile to continue, which is a really nice thing to have on your machine. So you can understand and fix video automatically as well. You can stabilize shaky videos, which is very important for drone footage, for example. You can detect and track faces in videos. When are they showing up? Which speaker is where in a video? You can detect motion, which part of the picture changed, which part of didn't change. And you can generate video thumbnails. And then you can run these thumbnails each through the animation, through the APIs I showed before. And then you can do something like that, like automatically tagging a video while it's running, live video. Or having a search later on that says like, okay, when did the chicken come into the video? And it will automatically find it for you. Machines and code are there to help humans communicate better. And I think this is what they're for, not to replace us, to make us better and to make us understand data better as well. The more useful our intelligent solutions are, the easier it will be for people to stop fearing innovation. And the fear of innovation is a big one. Fear of innovation in many cases shows itself by making sure the first use of an intelligent system is a failure. We love to show supremacy over technology. Every time I go and give somebody a phone, the first search they do is something the computer doesn't know. Ha, I'm a human, I'm cleverer than you. You just shot yourself in the foot, you spent $600 on a thing you broke. That makes no sense, but we always love to do that. We love to show our independence of machines by showing how fallible they are. When a self-driving car drives into a ditch, it's headline news for like 6 days. Oh, look, it's not ready yet. Sorry, you have to still drive cars. You have to still block up the roads with everybody having your own car, or 5 of them. But if like 600 people get killed every day by drunk drivers, that's not headline news anymore. That's just something we got used to. So machines being fallible is always a thing where we get very excited about. And that can, of course, get really, really bad. In the worst case, it's about trolling, and it's about using technology for terrible things, and for just showing that you, as a human, can control the internet. There was a great experiment that we did called Tay. Tay was a chatbot that ran in China for a few months successfully. It was basically, hey, talk to me. I want to learn how humans talk with each other. And there it became a personal assistant, there it became a friend for some people, there it became a singing partner for some people, because Chinese people are afraid of doing things online. This is terrible, but at the same time it just shows that it's kind of an interesting thing for them. It's something new, something cool. In the Western world, within 24 hours, Tay started quoting Hitler was not a bad guy and started shouting racist shit and whatever. And people were like, ha ha ha, Microsoft has made a mistake. No, the software worked flawlessly. It did exactly what it was meant to do. It was about to go on Twitter and listen to the people there. And the loudest, most annoying people with the most time on their hands, probably live in their mom's basement with a fast connection, are those trolls that fed it all this bullshit. The people who would be interested probably or could benefit from a more intelligent machine didn't even hear about it because it got taken over by these horrible, horrible people immediately. And this is what scares me. If I look at sentiments on Twitter and Facebook right now, especially the last 2 days, I don't want to be part of these people. I don't want to be part of this world. I want to make this world better for other people. We are being dominated by people who want to see technology fail for the laughs of it. And we didn't spend 20, 30 years to get to where we are right now to make it not usable for humans afterwards. So I love it when Werner von Braun did the first rocket, and then he had to do it as a V2 for the Second World War. And his first quote after that was like, the rocket, it worked flawlessly, it just landed on the wrong planet. Because he always wanted to go into like space with it. He was a scientist that wanted to go away and explore. Instead, we used the thing to kill other people. And right now we use social media, machine learning, and bots to actually kill each other or like bully each other and make each other scared of technology. And that's just sad. We should not be that arrogant. We should get inspired by the amazing stuff that's already happening and create more human solutions. Show things to people that are already happening that they might not be aware of. Quality of what is happening is dependent on context. So when a chatbot like Tay doesn't get any context that probably Hitler is a bad guy and you shouldn't talk about him, then it does just repeat it. This is a system called CRIS, which is Custom Recognition Intelligence Service, and we interviewed kids about a book, and they're like 3 to 7-year-old kids, and they're completely incomprehensible, as you know. And on the left-hand side is basically the text that a normal speech-to-text did, and on the right-hand side, we told the computer this is about a book. We didn't even tell them about what book it was. We didn't give it the book data, but I told it it's a book about fantasy. And out of a sudden, this text becomes readable and understandable because the computer had context. So our job is to bring context to the data. You can go to Google and you can say, like, how long does it take to get from here to the capital of Denmark? I never did that before. I just tried it yesterday night, and I'm like, this is cool. This is how clever Google Maps is by now. And I don't even, and people probably don't know what the capital of Denmark is. Cool, now it's there. I can go there. The search in the latest OS X show me my documents larger than 20 pages. I didn't know that was possible as well, but there's clever things in these searches as well. We have live translation of calls in Skype. We did this here when the refugee crisis started. We gave out free phones to people that they can speak into in Arabic and translate it into Swedish for a police officer, using Skype in the background, not running on the machine sadly enough yet because we're not quite there yet with the analysis, but it worked. Writing and reading tools that change the display of text cater to the needs of people with learning disabilities. The easy learner mode or the cognitive learner mode of OneNote does that. And we did that partly again in Sweden. We had a company here that filmed kids with learning disabilities, had a camera on while they were reading on a screen, and by the movement of their pupils and how much these pupils had errors in them, they managed to understand how the text should be displayed for somebody with that disability to learn better. And we had school kids that normally took 7 to 11 months to get from one reading level to another, do it in 2 months after that. Just by having data and putting it back into the software without even advertising it much, without even telling about it. Like, hey, I see you have a problem. Much like my phone, when it's too dark, it turns into black and white rather than white and black. This is what machines should do, and this is what we should be building for people. Automated content in context. Google's Allo coming out right now. You upload a photo and it says like, yum, linguine. Or it says so pretty with a rose. These are very weird things that a computer should not be doing, but they do. The problem that I have with those is like people will use them and get lazy and not even talk to each other anymore. So in essence, we're actually having computers using humans to talk to each other. Wasn't it meant to be the other way around somehow? But okay. Convenience can help us become more effective and better, but it can also make us complacent and predictable. And let's not forget, when we only use these answers that computers give us, computers will be able to replace us. Predictability is what replaceable computers and robots can do. We need to use our skills, knowledge, and products to give people a sense of interaction and data ownership. We need people to understand that they get this free stuff by not giving stuff away. And they should demand where this data is and be able to delete it, be able to forget it. It's too easy is dangerous. It makes people attractable, and more importantly, it turns them into pure consumers rather than creators and owners. That's the magical thing. Put this thermostat in your house, and you never have to worry about heat again. It's also part of a botnet that takes down DNS for a day, but that's fine. It's up to us to make this revolution one that improves all mankind and not only makes some quick money and shows us more ads. I'm tired of this. We have the technology, we have the data, we have the knowledge. We are actually safe in our jobs for now. Let's misbehave and do cool stuff for humans for a change. Because humans are great people, weirdly enough. And there's no need to make them do things that are not meant to do. When lifts came out, every lift had a lift attendant in it. And look how happy that person looks. This is stupid. Nobody needs those. People were afraid of lifts, so they needed to have another human in there that they weren't afraid of lifts. Nowadays, probably after we learned on Twitter that all people are evil, we probably wouldn't be going in a lift with a person in there. I don't know. Let's automate what we can and tell humans what is happening. In Heathrow, there's no call buttons. The lifts will stop automatically. Really confuses people. But it's a big sign. It shouldn't confuse people any longer. I want to finish with something that is very, very exciting. You remember Geordi from Star Trek? He's also LeVar Burton, who did the Reading Rainbow, so he's a really, really beautiful person. This is Saqib, a colleague of mine in London. He's a software developer, and let me show you what he's been doing.
I'm Saqib Sheikh. I lost my sight when I was 7, and shortly after that I went to a school for the blind, and that's where I was introduced to talking computers, and that really opened up a whole new world of opportunities. I joined Microsoft 10 years ago as a software engineer. I love making things which improve people's lives, and one of the things I've always dreamt of since I was at university was this idea of something that could tell you at any moment what's going on around you.
I think it's a man jumping in the air doing a trick on a skateboard.
I teamed up with like-minded engineers to make an app which lets you know who and what is around you. It's based on top of the Microsoft Intelligence APIs, which makes it so much easier to make this kind of thing. The app runs on smartphones, but also on the Pivot Head smart glasses. When you're talking to a bigger group, sometimes you can talk and there's no response and you think, is everyone listening really well, or are they half asleep? And you never know.
I see two faces, 40-year-old man with a beard looking surprised, 20-year-old woman looking happy.
The app can describe the general age and gender of the people around me and what their emotions are, which is incredible. One of the things that's most useful about the app is the ability to read out text.
Hello, good afternoon. Here's your menu.
Great, thank you. I can use the app on my phone to take a picture of the menu, and it's going to guide me on how to take that correct photo.
Move camera to the bottom right and away from the document.
And then it'll recognize the text. Read me the headings.
I see appetizers, salads, paninis, pizzas, pastas.
Years ago, this was science fiction. I never thought it would be something that you could actually do. But artificial intelligence is improving at an ever faster rate, and I'm really excited to see where we can take this. As engineers, we're always standing on the shoulders of giants, building on top of what went before. And in this case, we've taken years of research from Microsoft Research to pull this off.
I think it's a young girl throwing an orange frisbee in the park.
For me, it's about taking that far-off dream and building it one step at a time. I think this is just the beginning.
Thanks.